inside Pokemans. Sorry, I don't want to get sued. Does everyone understand this like Pokemon reference? If I go too down the rabbit hole, I got like 3 nods. Cool. All right, great. So we'll just explain it. Um, Pokemon was a very popular early 2000s cartoon. Um, the question is, do you believe in the heart of the cards?
Yes.
All right. We could do a Yu-Gi-Oh one tomorrow, right? Just for fun, just to spread the love. So Pokemon was like a early 2000 show. Basically, it was like it's like some cartoon where you have a bunch of people and they collect these like pocket monsters, right? Just think of them as like regular animals. Like imagine like you walked around, you like got a squirrel, and you just like threw a ball at it, and now you own the squirrel, right? And then, yes, it gets worse. You could just say, squirrel, I choose you. Throw this ball. The squirrel, which now belongs to you, would pop out of this ball and fight for you, like to the death. Anyways, one of the most lucrative cartoon shows ever to exist. Thank you, Japan. So that's really all you really need to know, right? I think I summed it up pretty good. So remember, I CD'd into it. Right? What's the first thing I should do in this project? Bundle. Right? Man, that was intense. Cool. So I'm going to bundle install, and while that's going, right, what are the models that I want to have inside my app? Cool. Right? So what's the relationship between trainer and Pokemon and trainer? Is that cool? Right? So Pokemon belongs to a trainer, and trainer has many Pokemans. Yeah? Awesome. So you tell me, where should we go? What should we do right now? There's a couple things that we can do. Either we can do something like this, right? We can create the migration, or we could build the model first. Does not matter which one, but we need both. So what would you like to do? You got outvoted, bro. I know. All right, cool. Let's just build a model first. Let's just mix it up, spice it up. Inside the model, I will make a file called, sure, trainer.rb. And then I will make a file called, all right, let's go for it. Ready? If I get sued, it's fine. Risk it. How do I do this? Class Pokemon, right? Right, hold on. Should we go for it? Should we go for it? No, just kidding. It's going to be really hard to find later, right? If you hold down the letter, like let's just say I know, for example, like U has like the umlaut, right? If I hold down U, it'll come out, and I could pick it. If I just press 2 or I click this, it'll give it to me. So if you hear me and my bestie over there, Andrew, go to Lunch, that's what we're talking about. I'm sharing too much of my life. I'll wait till feelings. So what does Pokemon inherit from? All right. I'm trying to like beat this into your heads only because it's important, right? That's where all these extra methods come from, like the first, the dot all, right? It inherits from active record. So is this done? Yeah, it looks okay to me, right? Don't forget to save. It's embarrassing. Cool, right? So let's actually make this migration a little bit. Rake db create migration action, and the name is going to be trainer or trainers? If I forget, what can I or should I do? If I forget whether or not something is plural or singular. Huh? I can definitely look at the help file, right? But basically, if I run create migration, it gives me like that sweet, sweet error. So money. It says create users, and that should give me a hint and indicate, right? Or I can just talk to my best friend, Google, right? And I'm like, hey, should migrations be plural or singular in active record? That's literally what I would put. And then like some genius on Stack Overflow with like 1,000 check marks would be like, come on, dog, plural. And then I'd be like, bet. Cool. If I talk like that, is that confusing to people or should I be more professional? Is it cool? Yeah. Are we aight? Done. Cool. So Pokemons. Yeah. And then I can just hit a little up, bloop, and then trainers. Yeah? We cool? Nice. All right. So the migration's done, right? Let's take a look. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And inside here, what should I do? Create table. And that's going to be Pokemons. Gotta catch you. Oops. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. And this is going to be what? Remember that pro tip I told you? Except I said string. We don't even know what the attributes are. Cart before the horse. All right, let's get away from name, right? Let's get away from name. Only because when we get to the form, right? HTML has an attribute inside the input called name, and what will wind up happening is you'll always put name, right? It becomes a little like tricky, almost pattern matchy. When you have something, especially like in lecture, you're trying to understand the concept, I try to name things really wild so that you can see as it passes through exactly what comes through on the other end, right? So for here, we'll just call it nickname, right? Because I mean, we understand what we're referring to, but I want that differentiator because if I use the same variable for same things, you don't know which one I'm referring to where, right? And I want to make that separate. What else does Pokemons have? What? Sure. And that is going to be a cool, right? So we'll just put health here, right? HP is very like intense on like the game lingo. Cool. Anything else? I was waiting for this, right? I was waiting for this. Active record does not like type. It don't like that. Yeah. If I were to put something like string, and then, oops, just kidding, that's not gonna work at all. And I would put something like type. Type is a like reserved sort of like attribute as a column in your database amongst active record, and it will break on you. It's like waiting for this. Comes up like every class, so just be aware, right? If you have type in here, and it's like my migrations don't work, and I see this, I'm gonna be like, but also like it'll throw a funny error, something about like type not being like allowed as like a column. So you know what? I'm lazy, so we'll just leave this alone. Cool. If we build a lot of these, it takes a long time to like seed the database, right? So what about trainers? What do we got here? Create table. And then it's going to be trainers do table block with t dot. What are the attributes of trainer? All right. Sure. What do we want to call these trainers, right? Huh? Fine. T name, right? I guess. Great. And t dot what? Great. Okay. Cool. 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 Right. I also forgot the end block here, so that's not gonna work. Great. You guys don't have enough badges to train me, but that's fine. Thank you. Like 4 people. So, what now? Yes, I need to migrate, right? And how can I test this? Right. I could definitely take a look at my schema, right? And that's cool. Great. What else? How else can I test this? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Okay.
One of the labs, they like specified dev environment or something. Could you like talk a little bit more about why that's necessary and when we need to do that?
Sure. So there are 3 sort of environments that you could possibly have, right? There's a development environment, which is what we are working in all the time as like developers. And what that means is this is what you build that the world does not see yet because it's not ready. And I put not ready in quotations because as you start to experience and learn and like build stuff, it will never be ready. It will never be ready. Never. Once it's good enough, ship it, right? Send that code to the world and let it fly. The other environment, right, which you're probably familiar with and you understand, is called production. And what that is when you ship it, right, when it's live on the internet, anyone else can touch it with an internet connection, or like they download your app from the App Store, they visit your website, that is your code in production, right? There are certain things that happen to it, and I'm gonna talk like for 2 seconds on it because I feel like this is something that you want to know. And that environment is completely separate. For example, in production, would you want your binding.pry, would you want the pry gem in production? No, right? I'm never going to debug my production code, right? So you want to start eliminating things that you only keep in the development environment in order to shrink your production code as small as you can. Because when you think about it, right? I'm building this website. I'm building this application, this Pokemon app. If my file is big, how long do you think it's going to take for somebody on their mobile phone to download my app and render this website? Probably a little bit longer than if I were to cut the fat on it. And we live in a glorious time of 2018 where if your website takes 4 or 5 seconds to load, oh, this website sucks. 1-star experience, gone, never use your app. Right? So you want to start cutting kilobytes anywhere you can, right? Also, this looks fairly human readable to me, right? But the code and the computer will only see keywords. They don't really need to know kind of all of this space that humans like to use for like reading. So if a line of code ends, they might do something like this, might do something like this, and then ultimately do something like this, and then it'll do something like this, 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 or like maybe this do block is like separating, right? This is known as like uglifying and minifying. So it literally breaks all the lines, shrinks it, and you ever like download something like that where it's just lines and lines and lines, and if you look through, you're like, oh, okay, I can see a function there. Or like, oh, I see this method here, but it's just like kind of clumped together. It's because all those spaces are technically characters. And if I can delete them, because as a computer, when I run the code, I don't need to be able to read it as a computer. I just need to understand what it's doing, the syntax, parse it, and run it. And so in the production, it'll look something like this, right? It gets uglified and minified to shrink as small as possible. Cool? And then the last environment is something called test, right? Where sometimes you want the RSpec inside your like development, but then in the testing, right, in the way like the production works at like say Snapchat, Facebook, or any of these like companies, is you have developers, they develop code, and when they're like, hey, it's good enough, I think it's ready to go, they will make obviously their own branch on Git, right, which you should start doing, and we'll remind you guys to do so during project week. Then you will merge it into development. Nobody ever really touches master, right? Master is like the production code, everything there works, right? And then you branch off into something called like development. Everyone builds off development, then 6 or 7 people on their individual teams work on individual features. They all push to development, and then QA people, right? Quality assurance, quality testing folks, will test your app. They will do weird things to it, right? Weird things that I'll show you like later during next week when we talk about like forms, validations, and things of that nature. And they will test to see whether or not your code is good. And they will break it. They will try to break it. And what I mean by that is, you know, we'll do something in this app and I'll show you, all right? Yeah, very good. Yeah, your Mod 1 project, right? So you like click around, you like work on stuff, and they'll find something that doesn't work, and then they'll spit it right back to you, like, hey Dev, listen, your code is all right, but this feature doesn't work in like your big feature. And they'll kick it back from test. And then developers work on it again, push it right back up to development. They'll test it. It'll be tested and approved. And then like your senior dev, your head architect will be like, great, let's review all these changes in this like 30-minute meeting, and then bad boys push to master. You know what I'm saying? And then it'll finally go to production. And so you have like 3 different testing environments. Here in the schoolhouse, we want to make sure that you're on that development environment. And so sometimes there'll be a line of code that says like in env, sinatra, like database, like equals development, something like that. And that's kind of what that is. Is that like tangent worth it for you guys? I just want to know because I will not go into these if this is not something that your class wants as a whole, or if you feel like, hey, that's not worth my lecture time, talk to me off base one-on-one, and I'll find that, and I'll fill that out for your class. Cool? Awesome. So, great. I finished my migrations, right? I have to test it. What I can do is I can go inside. Which one? In the schema? I didn't save it, so probably won't. In my rake file, remember I can describe, right? Open that pry. And I think there's like task, and I can call it anything I want, right? So I can call it C, right? Like console if I wanted to. Do, end, and all I'm going to do is start a new pry. Cool? So if I check my rake tasks, I should see the rake console, and I can jump right into the rake console. Cool? Here I just want to test whether or not my models exist, so I can do Pokemon. That all? Great. And that should return in like an empty array. So should trainer. Cool. What are my associations between trainer and Pokemon again? All right. Where would that go? In the model view or the controller for each file? Model, right? So now you're starting to remember like this active record from mod 1. Because now we added controllers and we added views. We stacked that on top of your knowledge from mod 1. So trainer, what's the relationship between trainer and Pokemon? All right, cool. And then what about Pokemon? Good shout. Cool. Sweet. Is there anything else I need to do? Cool. So how does the database know about the relationship? Active record magic, right? So if I were to do something like in this, right, Pokemon belongs to trainer. So if I were to say Pokemon dot first, right, and get that Pokemon object, and I would call dot trainer on it, because that's what this belongs to relationship is building for me, right? It's doing that select, then it's doing the map where it equals self. I'm only returning the ones where this trainer like has this Pokemon, right? So how does active record know which one to sort through? Through this concept called a foreign key, right? Where do I put my foreign key? In the join table. When would I need a join table? If you have a many-to-many. Do I have a many-to-many relationship here? So would I need a join table? No, right? So how does active record know whether or not these are related? This foreign key concept, right? So this good rule of thumb is whatever belongs to should have the foreign key. And that makes sense, right? If I belong to something, right? Me as a Pokemon, I belong to a trainer. When I'm creating this Pokemon object, I want to know, well, which trainer do I belong to? Trainer 7, right? Or I belong to like trainer 9. So like if I'm making another app and it's like parties and gifts, right? And gifts belong to a party. If I'm looking at a particular gift, I need to know which party does this belong to. So the foreign key should go in the belongs to. Is that clear? Does that make a little sense? Some sense? Cool. How would I add the foreign key? Just someone else, because you're crushing it right now. Yes, sir.
You're gonna add a column to the table.
Which one?
The belongs to one,
And which one's that? Right. So in the Pokemon, I need to add what? I need to add the trainer ID as a foreign key. Can I add it right now? I need to roll back because my database already exists. The ORM is done. The migration is already complete. So because I have absolutely nothing inside my database, I can totally roll back, right? Rake DB rollback. And how many times will this roll back my migration? One every file, right? So bloop, and it took away trainers. One more time, and it takes away Pokemon. So now in my Pokemon, I can do t.integer, and I can add that foreign key of trainer ID. Whoa, that could have been very easy to spot because they're lined up. That's silly of me.
Much easier to roll back and try to change the table. Would you agree that's probably the best way to go?
I'm gonna explain both, right? If you have like almost nothing, right? You haven't really made any changes, something like that, or your database isn't really populated, then you just roll it back. If you already have a lot of data and you're like midway through this, and all of a sudden, like halfway through building your app, you're like, oh my God, it would be so much better if this had an association, and I want to add a new association. I want to add a foreign key. I want to add a new column to my database. I would create a migration to do that. I would simply db create migration, add foreign key to Pokemon. And then in this, right, if you forgot the syntax, you just Google it and just put like, I want to add a foreign key to a table. It'll come right up. In the def change, it'll show you how to do it. Cool? So let's do this. Oh, oops. Sorry, I'm in Rails land. I don't know if this will work. Cool. So that's done, right? So let's check the Rake console. And I were to go to Pokemon. Cool. Pokemon.create. And what do I need in my Pokemon? Nickname, right? Who is this? Oh, Ketchum. Ketchum, right? Oh, Ash, right? How much health does this Pokemon have? Actually, that's the Pokemon. Who are we looking at? Pikachu? Congratulations, you're all suckers for marketing. Slow bro. Hundo P, right? Great, and the trainer ID. Cool. Does it make sense that I would have a trainer ID right now? No, right? Because no trainer exists. But you know what? Let's just throw them on one for now. Cool? Great. So now I need to make this trainer. And who is this trainer? Yes! Yes! Trainer name. Mike Chang. Capital, powerful Chang, right? What'd you call him? Mad Dog? I'll let him know. That's how his class sees him, right? How many badges does he have? 9. All the badges, right? Powerful Mike Chang. Mike Chang has enough badges to train me. Cool. So now how can I test this association? Underscore.Pokemon? Pokemon.underscore? All right, well, let's do this, right? What I really want to find out is I need this Pokemon object. So I'm going to make sure I call first, right? And not something like Pokemon as just the class. So I just want that first object. And then I'm going to say in this Pokemon, right, is it trainer or trainers? Why? Well, let's remember, we built these methods, right? So if I look inside trainer, if I look inside Pokemon, right, it belongs to trainer. The method that I built here, right, is trainer with a singular, right? And it makes sense because the belongs to is singular. How can I belong to one trainer and ask, hey, Mr. Pokemon, which is weird to say, Which trainers do you belong to? Like, well, actually, I only belong to one. Yeah, but which trainers do you belong to? Like, even in English, it doesn't make sense, right? So which trainer do you belong to, right? So if you're ever like confused, you are the one that built these methods, so you can always refer to them. And there it is. Remember, the belongs to, right? Trainer singular will return a object, whereas trainer.first, right? Because I want the object. And what would I call Pokemon or Pokemons? Because it has many, right? How many Pokemons do I have in this collection? One Pokemon in this collection. Even though I have one in there, do not forget it returns an array-like object. So even though you have one, you cannot immediately utilize it. You have to go inside this collection and ask for the object itself in order to manipulate its data. Cool? Awesome, let's move. Bloop. All right, and how do I start my server? Shotgun, I guess. Cool, right? What's the first thing I need to do now that I know I have a Pokemon object and a trainer object? Well, yesterday I kind of alluded to it, right? Does it make sense to put everything inside the application controller? No. Why did I go to controller instead of view? Well, we know we have to build the MVC, right? And I know I got that M locked down. I tested it, everything works, right? Now it's left with the V and the C. Which one should I build first? Why controller? Well, I can't really build the view unless the controller tells me which view to render, right? Inside the controller is that go-between between model and view. So I can't really build any views unless I have a controller that points to the view, right? So for those that said controller, good guess, or like, you know, good sleuth work, right? So let's build this controller. Which controller should I build first? Well, application control is built for me. Thank you, Cornel. So powerful. Powerful, right? Well, let's think about this, right? The has many does not have the foreign key, so it'll be a little bit easier to build. I'm gonna run through the full CRUD, and then we'll jump right into like this belongs to, which is kind of the trickier form, right? So let's build this trainer first. Ready? Trainer. Trainer is controller. Cool. And how do I build this? Cool. Right? Because I want to inherit from the application controller. Cool? Because that's inheriting from Sinatra base. And what do I want to build? What are those RESTful routes that I'm trying to hammer into your brain? Remember, there's only like 4 CRUD actions, right? The easiest ones are definitely at least the reads, right? So what are the reads for me? I have what 2 just read-only actions, right? I have like this index action that's going to show me all of them. And then I have, instead of all of them, and I want to see just, what would that be? Very good, right? Show. Cool. So what is the CRUD though? What is the C? What do I got here? I need this create. But create breaks it down into how many requests? 2. And what requests are they? First, I need to show the form, right? So there's like some new form. And then with the form data, I'm going to do something called create. This will make more sense as we go through. So I got to hammer rest into your brains, right? In the same way that new takes 2, right? We have the U from CRUD, this update action. I need to first ask the user, what do I want to update? So I have a like edit form, and then I have a update action. Lastly, that D though, that didn't sound right. The delete, we'll just go there, right? Cool. Happens like literally every class. Cool. So these 2 are the read action, right? In the read, which HTTP verb am I going to use? get, right? And then following the RESTful routing for trainers, this would be a get to slash nothing. Trainers, very good, right? Trainers. And what is that going to do? Cool. Remember, the controller is the go-between between the model and the view. So I should definitely see, do I need anything from the model? Do I need anything from my database first before I render this view? In my index, and I need to show all the trainers, how would I get that? Right? And I now want to make sure I can pass this into my view. What do I need to make this? Very good. Say it with me now. Bodegas. Cool. I should, and I will. Good catch. Right? And what is the response that I want to send back? What is the view that I want to send back? ERB what? Index. Right? But remember, I know I'm going to have a Pokemon controller that will also probably have an index. So I probably want to nest that into its own folder. Right? And inside my trainer folder, I want to have something called index. Oops, index. So in my views, right, Shift A makes the folder. I can make a trainers folder. And inside this trainers folder, I want to build something called index.html.erb. Right? I no longer need this .html because we've been doing it for so long, and by we I mean like the Sinatra and Rails developers, that we've dropped this sort of extra extension. So .erb is fine. Cool. In here we'll have index. And I broke that for a reason, and you'll see why, right? So what do I have access to inside this index view from my trainers controller, which I did not open? Bloop, bloop, bloop. Cool. What do I have access to? We did this yesterday, right? At trainers. Notice that it like didn't come like all sexy highlighted because it looked like a Ruby, right? Command Shift period if you have the Rails snippets.
You have to highlight it first. Okay.
Yeah.
I would do Command Shift period and just show up.
Yeah. Cool. Remember, trainers is the .all for trainer.all. So it's a collection. So I'm simply going to iterate through each, do T because I'm lazy like that, and oops, again. And then all I'm going to do is take that T and I'm going to have what, like a nickname or like a T name. Right? God, Mike Chang, powerful Mike Chang. This also didn't highlight because it looked like a Ruby, right? I do not want this to display, and I do not want this to display. I do not have the equal sign there, but I want this to show. So I want to make sure that equal sign is there. Cool? I wrote some code. Let's test. How would I get to /trainers inside my application? Localhost. What are we still on? 9393? How would I get to /trainers? Wow. Routing is so powerful. Oh. Bloop. Very good. Why is this still busted? It's looking in the application controller. Yes? You had something? Oh. Right. I'm only currently running my application controller only and exclusively. In my config.ru, I have to make sure I use the trainer controller. This is what I mean by your app will break, right? This is why I did this obnoxiously earlier. So even though your code is perfectly fine and it in fact works, someone from QA will be like, hey dog, listen, you put too many characters, it doesn't fit on the page. Try to possibly do some sort of text wrap, or like don't use so many characters for index, you dummy, right? Like something like that will come back from QA, cool? So in case you thought I was just being obnoxious for no reason, I knew this was gonna happen, right? Like this is what I mean by your code looks great, but until you actually run it and test it, someone from QA might step back and be like, well, you know, it's a little jank. Fix it. Cool? So those are like those three environments. Sweet. Of course, powerful Mike Chang, right? If I had more trainers, it would iterate through all of them. But remember, I only have one because that's all I made in my database. So let's move forward. I can then do show, right? And what is the RESTful route for show? What HTTP verb do I need simply to render this information? To, following the RESTful convention, trainers. But I need to know which trainer specifically. So I want to pass in that ID. All I'm going to do is make sure I have access to this because I need to find this trainer. And remember, this ID, as we went over in yesterday's lecture, comes through as params. So I can simply find it. Well, that's not going to work. By the params of ID. Now that I have this model, this object, I can render the response, right? And I'm simply going to render trainer/show. Cool? I'm not going to build this because this was part of yesterday's lecture, but I would go inside trainers, I would build the show.erb, and then I would iterate through all the details of this trainer. Cool? In this new, right, remember I'm just rendering a form. I'm just getting data. What kind of HTTP request would this be? And what is the URL? Just the form. Just the form. Ready? Not submitting any data yet. Cool. It would be a get to trainers new. All right? This is the RESTful route. And so in here, do I need to get anything from the model? Well, what does this do, really? It just gives me a form asking for data, so I don't actually need anything from the model right now. So pass on that, all right? What is the response? I'm just going to ERB, right, this trainers new. And this is just going to be the form. Cool? So let's build that super fast. In this trainers, I have a new.erb. I'm just going to replace this, right? So I have a h2 tag just for funsies. New, what is it? New trainer. Sign up. Sign up, okay. Now, right? Cool. And then what does this do? I just need this form, right? I can use Atom to help me. Form. Class is just for styling. And remember, what is this method? What does this post indicate to you? I'm like submitting some data, right? Where do I want to post to? Right? Do I want to post to new? I want to post to trainers, right? Because that's like the RESTful route. And here you can see it in full circle, right here in this create. I can do a post to /trainers. And that is where this form will submit to, right? I gotta make sure I have my inputs, some text. Remember, this name is the key that will come across on my params. So what are the attributes for my trainer? I just have tname, right? My trainer name. Do I want a value in here already? No, right? Some sort of placeholder. I was like, give me a trainer name. I can even put trainer name here. Sometimes you'll make this mistake. It happens all the time. You have this beautiful form. It's got all these inputs in it, and you cannot submit it. You'll recognize this immediately. So make sure you have a submit in here. And then if you leave it blank, it'll just say submit. If you put a value for submit, it'll be this is what comes out on the website. Cool? The input submit will like default to like a button that submits this form, right? Yeah, it's better to use input type submit, right? It's just showing you what it's building, and that's why it used button as like an explanation, like analogy. Cool? Great. Is there something that will possibly go wrong with these two in this particular order? Right? It will think new is an ID. So, in the hackiest way possible, thanks Sinatra, you want to move this up. Otherwise, if I go to trainer/new, this will hit first and will think it's an ID. It'll run params ID. It'll not find a trainer with an ID of new, and it will break. So let's take a look. I wrote a lot of code, and I should be testing on the way. Let's go to trainers/new. And there it is, new trainer sign up. I have this trainer name, give me a trainer name, and this is what comes out on the website. Cool? What will happen if I put in, right, the great Chris, powerful? What will come out on my params on the other side? A params hash with a key of tname pointing to the value that I just gave, which was the great Chris. Right? I can do this right here. Boop, boop. I don't think it'll take that binding. So powerful Chris. Right? We missed you. Right? Again, it's hanging. So what do I have here on my params? As expected. Right? That's why I didn't want to use name, because like name, it becomes tricky. Right? Like which one goes where? So powerful Chris. Is there anything else in my trainer? Badges possibly? But I have no validations right now, so I can kind of like still make this even without putting in badges. So trainer.create with the params will give me powerful Chris, but no badges yet. Maybe we can write a method later as like a custom feature that can like update badges. Right? But we'll get to that later. Cool? So, any questions on this new form? If I wanted to, I can simply add in, right, badges, right, input. This will be like a number. I want to make sure this is badges, right, because that's the key that I want to come on my params hash, and the value will default to 0. So if I were to do that, I want to go refresh this. I'm still in the binding. Yeah. Cool. See how it defaults to 0 with that value? Cool. Let's make, who we got? Dick Ward. Dick's not very angry, right? Let's just use proper nouns here. You got any badges, Dick? No? 1. Okay, 0, 1. Cool, got it. Great. And so now on my params, I have that powerful Dick Ward with 1 badge, trainer.create with the params. Something I want to show you, right? And we'll run into this problem in edit. Remember, params is just every single thing that comes across on inputs. Don't forget. So, any questions on this new? This is kind of like a review from yesterday. Awesome. Let's go to edit.
You always have to put, because of scope, the new above. Right?
You have to put, yeah, the more specific will go always above the delimiter. All right? So add trainer equals to trainer.create with the params that we talked about, exactly what I did inside the command line. And then, what does post do? I could just simply ERB here, right? Yeah. But I've already built this like show page. Oops, I already built this show page. I might as well just redirect to this show page, right? And this is the exact route I want it to go to, right? But do I have the ID right now? I do. I do. I have this trainer's ID because it was just made. And that's how I can redirect. Cool? We saw that yesterday. So in this edit, right, in the same way that new and create work, this edit must give me what? A form, right? Ravioli, ravioli, give me the formioli. What? Thank you. What HTTP verb would this be simply to render a form? Get, right? Even though I'm in this like edit portion of it, it's the get. In the same way that even though I'm in the new, it's still a get to just render the form. So this get is to RESTful routing trainers slash, well, before I had just new, right? Do I have the instance of the trainer I want to edit? Does this trainer exist? It does, right? So I need to know which trainer I'm editing. But the difference between this get to slash trainers ID and this one, right? Because this looks awfully familiar. I want to differentiate it and let people know what time it is, and that is I'm going to edit. Cool? This is just like a RESTful convention. That being said, do I need anything from my model? This one I do because the trainer exists. So at trainer equals to trainer dot find with the params of ID coming from this URL. Now that I have this trainer, I can simply, where's the response? What am I going to ERB now? Trainers edit, right? It's like following this RESTful convention, right? Edit here, cool. And the show goes with show, new with new. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
No, you good.
Question.
Send it.
When you create a trainer, what if you were submitting a form where it had to be unique? Would you do find or create by?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
If it had to be a unique trainer name.
It had to be unique trainer name. That's under validations, and we'll get to that next week. Cool. Sweet. So I'm going to render this like ERB edit, right? So where should I build? Edit. Awesome. All right. Thank you, mysterious stranger. Edit.erb. And what it looks like is it looks very similar to this form, right? This new and this edit, they look the same. Let me explain why. Ready? Edit, not new. Haha, emoji. Ready? Just to make sure I'm not crazy. Because if I'm using like the same line of code, I want to make sure like I can actually see a difference in this website, right? This view. Here's why. In this edit, let's think. I'm going to edit the trainer name, and I'm probably going to edit badges. Is there any way I can possibly have access to this trainer's name already? If I was trying to edit a trainer, do I want that person to type in information they already have that they're not trying to edit or update? No, right? So here instead of placeholder, I can put value, right? Do I have access to the trainer?
Yes.
I do. I can simply do at trainer.tname here. But that doesn't come out right because it looks like a Ruby, right? No, this space will render, but these will not. Cool? It's just inside the interpolation. If you have the Rails snippets Atom package installed, it's Command-Shift, period, and it will cycle through them. Cool? If you do not have it, and you want to be like straight old school thugging it, if you hit equals tab, it'll build this. If you hit minus tab, it'll build this. Cool? Great. So, in the same way, do I have the badges?
Yes.
Cool. So, make sure I drop that, and I call badges here. So this will now interpolate the values that already exist for this particular trainer. Let's take a look. How would I get to that route? How would I get to this route? Well, ready? Okay. So I can do this. Okay, just kidding. I can do this. Because this is the route I'm going to, right? But this delimiter actually needs some sort of value, right? Let's just go 1, because I think I only have one trainer. I'm a dirtbag. Cool. Look at that. Mike Chang with all 999 badges already filled in for me. Isn't that nice? Here's the weird thing though, right? In update, remember, just like in this new, right, I did a post to trainers. In my update, what should I actually be hitting? Which HTTP verb do we learn about that affects the U? Patch, right? Put or patch, but remember, if we had to pick a default, patch, right? So instead of post, I'm going to use patch instead. And that's going to indicate that this is like an edit action.
Mike said that you have to do everything to get the post.
Correct. And I'll explain, right? So the internet's busted, right? It's like barely held together. So in this patch, right, I'm going to go to /trainers. Do I need to know which trainer I'm updating? Or can I just leave this alone? I need to know which trainer I'm updating. So probably want this bad boy in there, right? The delimiter. Let me just probably want this delimiter in there because when I edit a trainer, I need to know which one. Little standard do block action. And let's just try hitting this prod. Yes?
This is going to be posted later, right? All this code?
Yeah, I post immediately after lecture.
Could you comment in there and ask that question? Do I need to know? Is that all?
Do I need to know what?
Do I need to know
Oh, okay. Which trainer? Boop, boop.
Yeah, thanks.
Psst. Yes. Right?
Thank you. I like that. No, it's good. It'll help me remember.
For sure, for sure, for sure. It's all about that learning, right? Different lecture styles, right? So,
Mike does that a lot.
cool. Mike's great.
I can watch the video again. It's just, oh, look, there.
So I want to know, you're good, you're good. I want to know, can I hit this, right? So I simply have to do what inside my form to hit this patch? Well, before in this edit, not new, haha, right? It was a post to /trainers. Can I patch to /trainers, but I'm missing what? Do I have access to the trainer in this edit? Psst, yes, right? So can I do, but that looked like a Ruby. So, bloop, just drop it right in the middle, like a boss. Cool, yeah? You looking around for the reactions? Yeah, I know. I was like, I know. So, let's find out. I hit refresh, and I can always check my form to see, it looks okay to me. There's a patch to trainers 1. That looks like it's going to hit my route. Right? Let's find out. I have a binding inside the trainers controller right here. If I hit this, actually I need to update something, right? Sorry, Mike. Bagels. All right? Apparently he's a better instructor than me. And he does cool things, so I'm demoting him. If I hit this, weird. There's no show. But why would it go to show? Interesting. Interesting. Well, let's take a look at this log real quick. These logs are not as good as Rails. Sorry. Actually, yeah, the logs are not as good as Rails. All right, I'll just have to spill the beans. So, as Mike has obviously alluded to, right? HTTP 1.1 and the current browser and the internet as you know it only responds to GET and POST requests. That's it. In order to hit any of the other ones, the put, patch, or delete, you have to trick the browser into doing these. And this is just one of those things you'll just have to know. Oh, just kidding. That was almost the new. Got me, coach. It's a good thing I added this. Remember, it only responds to get and post. So I will have to put an input, that didn't work, an input and sneak it in, right? It's not going to be a text, right? In order to hide this, I want to make sure this is hidden, right? And all this is going to do is not render on the page. It will still exist, but it will not display, right? What is this name? Oh, that would have been bad. What is this name, right? I want to make sure I can overwrite what this method is. In order to do that, I have to do something called underscore method. This is literally something you memorize or will literally look up, right? And that is, how do I get my form to patch and not post? And this will come up. What is the value? Well, here, if I'm going to overwrite the method and no longer want post, I want the patch. There's one more thing I have to do. What? Hide the ID? No. You have to hide the ID? I'll take a look at that lab later. That sounds a little sus, right? Cool. I'll have to use inside here, right? Rack method. Oh man. Method override. I think it looks like this. Let's reference this. Cool? Hey, well, who comes in after this and at what time?
Laura.
Okay? Blogs?